ये क्या पापा रंजीत के असली बेटे होते ना तो ए नहीं करते ऐसा करते
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into the world of Bollywood, looking at the recent comedy thriller, Housefull 5.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. Big franchise, big stars.
Exactly. We've got Akshay Kumar, Ritesh Deshmukh, Abhishek Bachchan. So this isn't just a movie review. We're sort of using this film as a case study because it was this big box office hit, right? But critics, well, they weren't so kind about the script, often calling it cluttered.
Right. So the mission today is really to unpack that. We've got a review here we're looking at, and we want to figure out what worked, what clearly didn't, and why you get this split big money but mixed reviews.
Yeah, why the disconnect?
And I think this deep dive is bigger than just Housefull 5. You know, it taps into this whole question about Bollywood blockbusters today.
How so?
Well, does that star power just, make a film immune to criticism about the script? And what does entertainment even mean if a supposedly cluttered story can bring in huge numbers?
Yeah.
We need to look past the figures.
Okay, good point. So let's start with the basics, the script, the story. What's the setup?
All right, so it's set on a luxury cruise ship. Pretty standard setup for maybe a thriller or a comedy.
Okay.
And you've got three guys played by Akshay, Ritesh, and Abhishek, who all turn up claiming to be jolly, the heir to some rich person.
Ah, the classic mistaken identity times 3.
Sort of, yeah. And then, of course, because it's also a thriller, it turns into a murder mystery pretty quickly. Twists and turns expected.
Sounds like a recipe for chaos, hopefully funny chaos.
You'd think so. But here's the thing, that review we're looking at, it suggests the chaos wasn't always controlled or funny. Critics apparently found the plot quite cluttered and confusing.
Oh, not ideal for a comedy or a thriller, really.
No. And they mentioned the comic timing often slipped, that the script tried to be charming, but often just felt absurd and inactive.
Inactive? That's a weird word for a script in a movie like this. What does that even mean in context?
I think it suggests that maybe things happened, but they didn't really move the plot forward in a meaningful way, or the jokes just sort of sat there. It sounds like maybe a lot of ideas were thrown in without really connecting.
So if the script itself is getting called absurd and inactive, how does that even work as entertainment? Especially in a genre that needs pace, comedy thriller.
Well, maybe that's where this other element comes in. The film apparently tried something new, this dual ending concept, Housefull 5A and 5B.
Oh, I heard about that. Like choose your own adventure.
Kind of.
Huh.
And the review did say this experiment managed to create a little curiosity among the audience. So even with a confusing plot, they had this gimmick, this hook.
Interesting. So a potentially messy script, but a clever marketing angle, maybe papered over some cracks, at least initially.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? If your story is a bit tangled, does adding more complexity with two endings actually help? Or is it just a distraction that gets people talking?
Maybe a bit of both. It definitely got people talking.
Yeah, it suggests maybe that initial novelty, that buzz, can sometimes pull people in, even if the core narrative isn't, let's say, perfectly tight.
Right. But, okay, Bollywood isn't just about the script, is it? It's often about the stars. Let's talk performances. Akshay Kumar.
Ah, yes. The review is pretty clear on this. It said he brought his full energy and was shining in many places.
So classic Akshay Kumar energy, basically. Sounds like he really carried his weight.
Definitely seems like his individual impact was strong. But what about the other leads? Ritesh Deshmukh, Abhishek Bachchan.
The review notes they maintained a decent balance, which sounds okay. Not exactly glowing, but solid.
Decent, yeah.
Yeah.
But, connecting this back, even if your main leads are doing fine, or even great, like Akshay, the whole thing often rests on the ensemble, right? And it sounds like maybe that's where things got a bit shaky.
How so? What about the supporting cast? They brought in some heavy hitters, didn't they?
They did. Sanjay Dutt, Jackie Shroff, Nana Patekar. Huge names, veterans. The review says their entry added a little life to the film.
You'd expect that. They have massive screen presence.
For sure. But this is but the critique hits hard here. It says their weak screenplay just didn't give them enough to work with. They couldn't really continue the case, as the review puts it, or sustain their impact.
Wow. So you bring in these legends and then you don't give them material. That feels like a waste.
It really does.
Yeah.
It kind of highlights that star power alone can't save a scene if the writing isn't there to support it. The characters need something meaningful to do.
Yeah. And what about the female leads? Soundarya Sharma and Jacqueline Fernandez.
Oof. This was another point of criticism. The review basically said they were given nothing special besides glamour, called them mere decoration.
Yikes. That's not great.
Especially these days.
Not great at all. It really makes you ask, what's going on when you have all this talent, established stars, supporting legends, actresses, and the script seemingly fails so many of them, especially the female characters, just sidelined as glamour elements. It feels like a huge missed opportunity. You've got the resources, the actors, but maybe not the vision for how to use them all effectively in the story.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
It points to a potential imbalance in where the focus went during development. Maybe more on the gags or the star moments than on coherent character arcs for everyone.
Okay, let's shift to the thriller aspect then. Comedy thriller. Did the thrills land? The review said the murder mystery and the twists on the cruise worked decently.
Decently, yeah. So not a total disaster on that front. There was some thriller element.
And I sense a but coming.
The review also stressed that the film didn't deliver a big bang experience, that feeling you want from a big screen thriller.
Right, the wow factor was missing?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And worse, it mentions that the humor and the action set pieces felt a little forced, that the thrilling moments did not emerge as expected.
Forced. Like you could see the gears turning. They just stuck an action scene here, a joke there.
That's what it sounds like. When things feel forced, it often means they don't really grow out of the story or the characters naturally. It breaks the immersion,
Yeah.
You feel like you're just watching planned bits instead of being caught up in it.
Yeah, that pulls you right out. So how important is that organic feel for a comedy thriller? If the jokes feel forced and the thrills don't quite land, does it just undermine the whole thing, even if the basic plot points are, decent?
Oh, absolutely. It can totally deflate the experience. A comedy thriller needs that balance, that flow. If the comedy feels shoehorned in or the thrill doesn't build naturally, the whole thing could just fall flat. That big bang needs a build-up.
Makes sense. It sounds like maybe the thrills fizzled a bit.
Yeah, a bit of a fizzle seems to be the critique.
Okay, so let's recap where we are. We've got a script called Cluttered and Confusing. Strong lead performance from Akshay, from others. Supporting cast and female leads apparently underused. Action and thrills felt a bit forced, lacking a big bang.
Doesn't sound like a recipe for massive success, does it?
It really doesn't. And yet, let's talk about the audience in the box office, because this is where it gets wild. Audience reactions were mixed, right?
Very mixed.
Yeah.
The review notes some people called it great comedy, but others were quick to point out the script and story missing balance. So the audience themselves were kind of divided along the lines we've been discussing.
But the money.
The money flowed, big time. By day 16, around 175 crore. By day 18, nearly 177 crore. That's huge.
Wow. Okay.
And get this, it made it Akshay Kumar's 5th highest grossing film, which, absolutely reinforces his strength as a big star. The numbers back that up completely.
So how do we even square that? The film makes massive money, cements its star status, despite all these criticisms about the script, the characters, the execution. What does that tell us?
It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? But
Yeah.
maybe points to different segments of the audience wanting different things.
Like some people go for the star, the franchise, the familiar gags, and they don't mind the messy plot.
Perhaps. Maybe for a large chunk of the audience, it's about that easy entertainment factor the review mentions later. It's familiar, has the stars they like, it delivers some laughs and some action, and maybe that's enough.
Enough to generate nearly 180 crore, yeah. It really does make you think about what success means. Is it just box office, or is it critical reception or audience satisfaction across the board?
It seems like, in this case at least, the box office and the star power validated the film commercially, even if critically it was seen as flawed. It suggests that the product being sold as star, the franchise, the promise of light entertainment, hit its target audience effectively.
Let's look at those specific ratings from the review. Maybe they shed more light. The script got a pretty low score, right?
Yeah, a 2 out of 5 for the script, which lines up with all the cluttered and confusing comments.
But acting scored much better.
Much better. 3.5 out of 5, which reflects the comments about Akshay's energy and the decent balance from the others. Star power clearly registered.
Okay. And action thrill.
That got a 3 out of 5. So aligns with the decently worked, but no big bang assessment. Average.
And the overall entertainment factor,
Also a 3 out of 5.
leading to an overall score of.
3 out of 5. So perfectly average overall, despite the low script score.
Interesting. So the review basically landed on, it's okay.
Pretty much. The conclusion summarized it nicely. Housefull 5 might work for fans of the franchise, people who know what they're getting into. But if you're looking for something deeper or more cleverly written, comedy or thrill-wise, you might be disappointed.
It acknowledged the script's mixed-up quality,
But said Akshay Kumar's energy and the whole action package still make it an easy entertainment option.
easy entertainment. That phrase seems key. It suggests that for a lot of people, maybe the priority isn't a perfect script, but just switching off for a couple of hours with something familiar and energetic.
Exactly. It tells us that maybe the bar for easy entertainment is different from the bar for critical acclaim. And for a blockbuster, hitting that easy mark with enough star power can be incredibly lucrative. It's about delivering a predictable, comfortable, maybe not challenging, but still enjoyable experience for its target demographic.
So wrapping this up then, our deep dive into Housefull 5 really highlights this tension, doesn't it?
Huge tension between massive commercial success, undeniable star power reinforcement.
And pretty significant criticisms about the script being confusing, characters being underdeveloped, especially the women just being decoration.
Yeah. It's a film that seemed to succeed almost despite its story, not because of it, at least according to the critical view.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought, I think.
Go on.
In today's world of big budget movies, big franchises, does having an established brand like Housefull and a megastar like Akshay Kumar, just bringing that raw energy, does that sometimes just matter more to the audience than a really tight script or well-developed characters?
That's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Does the formula of star plus franchise plus easy entertainment now outweigh traditional metrics of quality like writing and character depth, at least when it comes to drawing crowds?
And if it does, what does that mean for the kinds of movies that get made in the future? Are we going to see more focus on the package and less on the substance?
It's definitely something to think about. It forces us to consider what different parts of the audience value most and how studios are responding to that. A really interesting case study in modern blockbuster dynamics.